These are some examples from the day 24 assignment. Here they want us to add the polynomials. These polynomials are inside of parentheses. There's 3 polynomials inside of a parentheses, and so those parentheses need to be removed. Outside of each parentheses, there's a 1, so if I were to remove this by distributive property, I'd be multiplying by 1, and since anything multiplied by 1 is itself, I could just write it as I see it, but without the parentheses. Plus 5x to the third minus 9 plus 1 plus 2x to the third minus x to the fourth plus x. Now the only thing left to do, I have 10 terms, is combine the ones that are like. In order to write this polynomial in standard form, I want to start off with the biggest exponents. So I see here the biggest exponent is the 4th power, and x to the 4th minus x to the 4th is 0, so those cancel out. Now the x to the thirds, negative 7x to the third plus 5x to the third is negative 2x to the third, but once I add 2x to the third, that also gives me 0, so that cancels out. There are no x squares, so now the x's, we have a negative x plus x, so that happens to also cancel out. And the last thing I have is an 8 minus 9, which is negative 1, plus 1, which is actually 0. So all of these terms completely canceled out, which left me with nothing, 0. Okay, here, subtract the polynomials. So same thing where the polynomials are in their own parentheses, I want to remove them. But now this middle polynomial has a negative 1 in front. So when I remove the parentheses, each of those terms has to change sign. The 14x squared minus x plus 3 can stay the same, but now I'll have minus 4x and minus 6. The plus 5x and the minus 12 can stay the same. I'll start off with the biggest exponent, which are the x squares. This is the 14 is the only one like it, so that's just going to drop as 14x squared. Next, the x's. I have a negative x minus 4x is negative 5x plus 5x, that's 0, so that cancels out, that's gone completely. And now the constants, 3 minus 6 is negative 3, minus 12 is negative 15. So 14x squared minus 15. A rectangle has a length of x and a width of 5x to the third plus 7x minus x squared. Find the perimeter of the rectangle when the length is 8 feet. Okay, so the polynomial that models this rectangle, let's draw a picture. Here's my rectangle. It has a length of x and a width that is 5x to the third plus 7 minus x squared. So the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 lengths plus 2 widths. So that means here, when I want a polynomial that's going to represent this is going to be 2 times x plus 2 times 5x to the third plus 7 minus x squared. I'll simplify by distributing, well, first I'll just multiply 2 times x is 2x, but then I'll distribute this 2 to get 10x to the third plus 14 minus 2x squared. I'll combine like terms, but there are none, so in standard form this would then be 10x to the third, I'm just going to rearrange them, minus 2x squared plus 2x plus 14. That's the way it would look like in standard form. So 10x power 3 minus 2x power 2 plus 2x plus 14. And then they want the perimeter when the length is 8. Well, the length they said was x. So if I were to put in an 8 for x, they would want me to evaluate this polynomial at 8, which I'm going to hope that in Algebra 1 you learned how to do that the long way when you just plugged in an 8 and then did PEMDAS, did order of operations. I'll show you a new way, which we're going to be using later on in this module, which is to use synthetic division. The 8 is what I want to plug in on a third degree polynomial, which is the reason why it's third degree is because that's the biggest exponent. I need 4 terms, and I have 4 terms. So as long as it's in standard form, I'm going to use the numbers that are in front. I'm not going to use the variables, just the numbers that are in front. So I'll write a 10, a -2, a 2, and then a 14. The way synthetic division works is I start off by adding straight down when you're going to add in the up and down direction, and you're going to multiply diagonally. So there's nothing below the 10, so the first thing I do is drop the 10. So I get a 10 underneath the line. In order to get back above the line, I'm going to multiply. And I'm going to continue doing this. Eventually, my answer is going to end up in this box over here. So now I'm going to multiply, and then when you multiply, it's always times the number in the box, which is 8. 8 times 10 is 80. Add straight down is 78. 78 times 8 is 624. Add straight down is 626. 626 times 8 is 5,008 plus 14 is 5,022. So that should be the perimeter. 5,022 feet.